Today's video is the question on everyone's mind: Medicare Supplement versus Advantage Plan. First, we're going to talk about costs, and it isn't what you think it is. Second, we'll talk about benefits, how they're different. And third, we're going to look at networks, and that's really where the decision comes down to these days. What doctors can you see? Let's jump into the video. Let's first talk about cost, because that's where everyone gets sold one way or the other. Oh, this plan's no cost, monthly. People focus on the monthly premium, so let's cover that first. With a Medicare supplement, it's driven by age and area. If you're 65, you have a new Part B. In California, a G plan, which is by far the most popular Medicare supplement, will probably run you around $150. And we quote all the major carriers across the board for everyone, so reach out to us. But let's use $150 as an estimate for a G plan for someone who's new, who's age 65. It goes up a little bit each year. As we get older, you figure by age 70, it might be up to around $200. By 75, it might be $250 based on today's cost. So that's your Medicare supplement monthly premium. For G plan, you have very little out of pocket on the back end. We'll talk about that next. For an Advantage plan, the premiums are very different. It can be $0 if you're in a popular area like Los Angeles, maybe up to like $40 on average, but usually you can find low or no cost Advantage plans in terms of monthly premium. So that's one piece of it. And people see that no cost, they're like, oh, this is fantastic, I'm going to do that. That's only half the equation. The other part has to do with the benefits. Let's talk about that piece now. Now let's talk about the benefit difference between Medicare supplements and Advantage plans. With a Medicare supplement, we'll use the G plan, which is by far the most popular plan out there, as our example. For that plan, you're basically only responsible for the Part B deductible, which as of 2025 is around $257 per year. So that's for doctor visits. That means your other core Medicare benefits are going to be covered by the G plan. You're responsible for, worst case, $257 for the year for doctor visits. Now, this goes up a little bit each year, but we'll use that as our benchmark. That's nice and easy. What about Advantage plans? Here, it's completely different. What usually happens with most of your Advantage plans is you pay co-pays for different procedures or different services, doctor visits, medications, since Part D is usually built in. However, you're going to keep paying these co-pays up until what's called an out-of-pocket max. And that's a really important piece on the Advantage side. It means if I have very large bills or a sequence of many bills over a year, just basically a bad year in terms of healthcare, when do I stop paying altogether? And it goes to the carrier for covered benefits in network, because again, we have to stay within a local network with Advantage plans. That max out of pocket, if you're in a popular area or competitive area like Los Angeles, maybe $200, $400, $800 a year. However, in the Bay Area, San Diego, it may run a couple $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. So it's hard to really compare. Yes, it's zero premium, but we may have to pay up to $800, $1,000, a couple thousand if we have big bills in a calendar year. Again, this is for a bad year where you have lots of healthcare costs, but it's potentially out there. So we want to compare that $257 Part B deductible with a Medicare supplement versus the out-of-pocket max on an Advantage plan. That's why it becomes so important to look at that number when you're comparing these options. Don't just look at premium. You have to look at back end, what might be out of pocket when you get sick or hurt. So that is now the benefit side we've talked about. Yes, Advantage plans may offer or add in dental, vision, other little standalone benefits, but we really want to focus on how they're going to address healthcare costs directly. And that's your Part B deductible with a G plan versus that out-of-pocket max and the copays that get you up to that. Let's now talk about the network side. Hey, if you like seeing this complicated world of comparing Advantage and Medicare supplements boiled down into simpler terms, please like and subscribe, and we'll continue to bring this to you. Let's get back to the video. Over the last open enrollment, what we found is the biggest issue or deciding making factor between a Medicare supplement and Advantage plan is the network. Meaning, if you have doctors or hospitals that you want access to, that may end up being the deciding factor. We're seeing a lot of shuffling around on the market right now with huge provider networks. For example, Scripps down in San Diego, or if you go up further north, there have been issues depending on your county in Sutter. And we're seeing more and more of this where an Advantage plan may not be available if you want a particular network, doctor, hospital, or large medical network. So we really need to go through and search for your doctors and hospitals. Let us chase that down because it's kind of a nightmare these days. The online directories don't always show. The online lists on the hospitals and doctors don't always reflect the current information. Let us chase that down for you. But in the end, this is the thing to keep in mind. With a Medicare supplement, you can go to any provider who accepts Medicare anywhere in the United States. You can refer yourself out. You're not locked into a local area. With an Advantage plan, there is a local network generally you have to stay within. And you must be in there other than a true emergency. You must stay within that network, get services within that network, and you want to make sure your doctors and hospitals participate and are set up within that network as well. That is really becoming a big deal when picking between a Medicare supplement and Advantage. Also keep in mind, most of your Advantage plans are HMO, especially most of the popular ones. HMOs generally are going to have restrictions in terms of referring yourself out, in terms of getting things pre-authorized. There's going to be more hurdles you have to jump to get care generally with an HMO, and that's just a function of that model. However, with a Medicare supplement, it's going to be more flexible. You have more control over care, again, across any provider who accepts Medicare. In the end, this is turning out to be a big deciding factor versus cost in terms of which way we go for a Medicare supplement or an Advantage. It's incredibly complicated comparing Medicare supplements and Advantage plans. Hopefully we made that easier, but let's really break it down to what usually is the final deciding factor. It's monthly cost. Can I afford to pay $150 plus my Part B, which might be $185? Let's say out the door with Part D, $350 a month at age 65, and that'll go up a little bit each year. For some people, $350 is not in the ballpark. It's really not something they can do. In that case, the Advantage plan becomes the default option. A lot of this is affordability. And so we see people say, I can't pay $350 a month. Okay, then let's look at the best option on the Advantage side to meet your needs in terms of doctors, in terms of your area, and what you're looking for. So it kind of comes down to cost versus control and flexibility. In the end, that's going to be the deciding factor when you're comparing these two. And of course, we're happy to look at your situation and go through any questions you have on that front.